This is the Doom Tomb Podcast, the podcast for all things stoner, doom, and sludge, and even a little psych every once in a while. My name is Chris. I am your host. Before we get into the interview, just a few quick things. First off, huge thanks to everyone that has contacted me through email or through social media to do interviews or just to say, hey, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. It's Doom Tomb Podcast on social media and doomtombpodcast at gmail.com. Also, I have a show on craniumradio.com Sunday evenings, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It might be a different time in your neck of the woods, so check it out, look, figure it out. Get in the chat room, say hey, maybe do a request. If I have it, I'll play it. Sounds good? All right. I think that's it. Thank you. I usually do that at the end of the interview, but I figured I'd do it before. Maybe it'll move the needle. Oh yeah, one more quick thing. iTunes, if you're listening on there, please do a review. 5 stars would be awesome, and say whatever you got to say. Thank you so much, everybody, and let's get into it with the band The Heavy Eyes. Psychedelic blues rock from the Delta that sounds similar to a skeleton driving a speedboat on a flaming Mississippi River, headed back to 1969. You want to talk about some true Memphis sound? We have the band that you are looking for. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you The Heavy Eyes. Gentlemen, how are you?
Hey, what's happening?
Hello.
What up?
All right, so we got some of the guys. Gentlemen, can you please introduce yourselves and what you play?
Yeah, this is a Trip. I sing and play guitar.
This is Eric. I play drums.
And this is Matt, and I play guitar as well.
Thank you, gentlemen. I sincerely appreciate that. Now, going over social media, I noticed that this recording space that you have, oh my God, it looked magical. Like, I know that this latest release that we're going to get to in just a bit, Love Like Machines. So this took a little while to get the finished product. We're going to go over that, but tell me a little bit about the recording space if you can. Seemed like there was a lot going on there.
To be specific, the album was actually recorded across 2 different states and 2 different studios too. So it was originally laid down live in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Everybody flew or drove, and we all stayed in an Airbnb in Santa Fe and spent, I think, 4 or 5 days there, something like that. We had some people bring some cool pedals and some fuzz stuff and some amps, and shout out to everybody that came through for that. But the studio up there is called Cabby Sound Studios, and it's run by a good friend of mine named Cabby Kabikoff, and he is an incredible person. We met through a Craigslist microphone buy thing, deal, and we ended up hanging out for a couple hours and drinking tequila at his house. But that studio's in his garage, actually, and it is incredible.
Is that the one?
He's an amazing person.
Is that the one with all the different old, not old, but 50s, 60s posters around? Is that?
No, that was. I think you're referring to the Sun Studios session we did here recently. Yeah,
that looked pretty amazing. And it's funny when this is where my head goes. Unfortunately, when I saw that when you're saying people brought all these different things to the recording process, I want to know who was a fan of Elijah Craig and who brought that.
Oh, yeah, that was me and Wally. Wally unfortunately couldn't. He may jump on a little bit, but he's out today. But yeah, we were headed to the studio and we were like, dude, we got to get some whiskey. Went to the liquor store. They had a special on Elijah Craig. We're like, this is some good shit. Let's bring it to the studio. And
we drank all of it.
We did. We drank all of it.
Yeah, every sip was consumed. That's for sure. That's hilarious.
So what kind of?
I forgot about it.
What kind of notes? Because I just brought some. A partner and I were getting together another festival in Arizona for next year, and he says, "Bring me over some bourbon." I took a look. I grabbed something and wound up being great. Some vanilla notes and etc. What kind of notes you got from that bourbon, or is it just a good drinking bourbon?
I think it's a good drinking bourbon, but man, I couldn't tell you I've had so many whiskeys since then. It's the only time I've had that, and I don't remember. I wish I could tell you more. Trip, I don't know. Do you remember?
No, I remember it was my first time ever having it, and I hadn't had it since. I remember enjoying the hell out of it, but I kind of have a baseline of like, does this shit taste like corn syrup? Or does this shit taste like whiskey is supposed to taste, or bourbon is supposed to taste? Yeah. And I'll tell you right now, Elijah Craig gets 2 thumbs up. Because, like, I mean, one of the things I love to do, and is a test of a good whiskey, is like, can you just put it on ice with water and drink it? And that's basically the baseline for what, like, you know. I know that some of these whiskeys kind of have vanilla flavoring, or not flavoring, but they have like those notes and tannins, or however the fuck you say it.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm kind of palate stupid. You know, I don't really know how to describe a lot of that stuff, but I do know what's good and what's bad. And Elijah Craig is very, very, very good.
There's got to be a way where you can Go ahead.
I was going to say, I remember we were drinking it straight from the bottle, so it had to be pretty solid.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, and not like completely like tasting it an hour later because the corn syrup is still on our teeth or whatever, you know, like.
And yeah, you know, it's just like you just take a sip, you're like, oh, that's very complex. And moving forward, yeah, and then pass it around. So. The latest release was mixed and mastered by Matt, right? That's correct. So,
correct.
Maybe the question would be better to ask for the other guys. Like, how is it working with the guy in the band to create that process? Is it a little easier? Does the tensions flare as you go through it, or?
I mean, it's hella easy, honestly. I mean, I feel like in general, you know. I love my brother to death, but sharing a bedroom with my brother, of course, we have fucking flare ups. So yeah, of course, we eventually like clash on things or whatever. But that's also the mark of people giving a shit. You know, it's not a good sign if people are just rolling over and doing like whatever. You know, I've had that recording experience, and I can't attest to that being any better than somebody who cares passionately about, you know, disagreeing with you or whatever. So, I mean, it's a complete cakewalk with Matt, but of course we do clash over things, but that's being bros, man. That's what being brothers is all about. You're gonna clash on some stuff, but
it's
passion. But yeah, 100%. And like, you know, we recorded everything with Matt besides like our very first 4-track EP. Everything we've done with him has been great. So, I mean, the only thing that changed is for him, he had to do more work because he's actually having to like play guitar. But that's where Cabby came in great too. That's one of the reasons we recorded with Cabby, is because, you know, having a guitar player that also knows his way around a studio, you know, pays dividends. Because I don't, you know, sometimes I have very abstract ideas that I can't really figure out how to get to an audio engineer. And Matt is a good segue between both or whatever.
Right, exactly. I appreciate that. Now, how long have you collectively known each other?
It's got to be, for me, Eric, and Wally, it's a decade now plus a couple years. And I mean, Matt, it's got to be a decade,
I think
right?
If
the first album came out in 2011, that means we had 2010. Then that means we have to be getting close to a decade now. So
I think that was the first. It was like the tail end of 2010 was the first recording session. I don't know. I have to look back.
Yeah, no, I think that's right.
Very close to that. Yeah.
So did you all get together because you had so many similar influences, or was it something else?
I mean, that's one of the cool things I really appreciate about Memphis. Having lived in Austin for a minute, I love Austin to death. It's one of my all-time favorite cities. But I found the difference between what musicians were trying to accomplish in a room together to just be very different than what Memphis musicians do. I mean, for the most part, what Memphis musicians do is they say, hey, you know, I play drums, you play guitar, let's try and make some cool shit. And no one really worries about the vision of it until it kind of starts making itself, for a lack of a better way to put it, you know? So like, we really just were all musicians who enjoyed hanging out with each other. So we started, you know, playing music together, so to speak. You know, I mean, me and Wally have grown up together, and we were looking for a drummer, and Eric was a friend of a mutual friend. And, you know, we got together and jammed and didn't absolutely hate each other. And same thing with Matt Qualls. Like when we started looking for an engineer, you know, we enjoyed the process of spending. That's because that's essentially what it comes down to is, can you spend 12 hours with this person and not want to kill them? And it's, you know, it's just makes life a lot easier.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, like I said, you know, that's why I asked the question. You know, tempers can flare, and as long as you can keep it controlled and on the same road with the same passion, I mean, you're going to put out amazing products like you did with this most recent release and the past releases as well. Now, the Heavy Eyes. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got that name?
Yeah. So I was kind of trying to think around the time we formed. Memphis is a major metropolitan area, but it's like top 25, I think. So when the 2008 like housing crisis or whatever, recession or however you want to put it, hit, it didn't hit us right at 2008. Okay. It hit us around, you know, 2010-ish when we started jamming together. And like, it was one of those things that everyone I knew was just working themselves to death, basically, and everyone was constantly tired, and they just had these like tired eyes, you know. And I just thought that was kind of a cool name. And there's a lot of, I'm a literature nerd, and there's a lot of symbolism with like eyes watching people. You know, you have T.J. Eckelberg or whatever his name is in The Great Gatsby. Mm-hmm. You have a book of mine that Eric still has called Moon Palace. Eric has had that book for like 5 years at this point, but there's a giant set of eyes that watches the moon character or whatever. And so like, I don't know, I just thought it was, I thought it was an interesting literary device. And then I thought I swore I read the passage Heavy Eyes in one of those books, and it turns out it's not in those books. The only place it ever appears is in like the King James version of the Bible, when the disciples won't like quit going to sleep while Jesus is like praying before he gets crucified, which is also kind of metal in and of itself. So you know, I don't hate it, but
can't get more metal than that.
Yeah,
absolutely. So what went down? So you got this release, Love Like Machines. What took the amount of time? Was it the creative? Was it just that you guys were in different states? Why did it take that amount of time to create this new release? Meaning from the previous one, you know, the time span.
Yeah, I think it's just we do a lot of stuff very like organically. We never have been like, oh, we have to put. I mean, we're getting more that way now.
Right.
But like, I don't know. I moved to Austin right around the time we started recording He Dreams of Lions. And then Eric moved to Denver from Memphis. So Eric was in Denver, and then Matt was actually living in Half Moon Bay for a minute, and then it was Albuquerque. So we were just separated by time, and honestly, we were just like living our lives and kind of enjoying. You know I was moving to Austin and just enjoying the city and enjoying my time there and stuff. But it kind of, you know, we eventually. You can't stop yourself from coming up with riffs or showing somebody an idea. And we were still playing shows here and there.
Right.
And honestly, I was having quite a bit of writer's block, and Matt kind of showed us some songs that he had like been messing with, and they were just so good. It kind of lighted a fire. And so Matt wrote a ton on the new album, and Wally wrote a ton. I think I think only 2 or 3 of the songs are mine, like, which is different because usually I pretty much write all of it or whatever. So, I mean, it was just time. We basically kind of organically decided, you know, this is the time to make the album now. And then, of course, after we recorded it, I had some health issues that really got in the way of like finishing it quickly. Usually we finish stuff pretty quickly,
right?
But that also kind of drags stuff out. It
happens. You know, we all go through our different things, but the end result is pretty gosh damn amazing. Now, let me just, while I have you, so Trip, where are you located now?
I'm back in Memphis now.
Okay, and Matt?
Memphis as well, yes.
And Eric?
I'm in Denver with no intention of ever going back to Memphis.
Well, fair enough, sir. Fair enough.
No, I love Memphis. I'm just joking.
What do you? Well, all right. Well, we'll get a little more into location later. Do you mind if we start going over the latest release and start going over the tracks?
Let's do it.
Sure.
So, Love Like Machines. Now, in the open of the entire album, I love this. There's some kind of it goes deep and it gets inside of you. This opening when hearing the movement of the fingers on the guitar. I love that. There is something about that. Like, you're already investing the listener into, like, it's so close to me if I was playing that I feel like I might as well be playing the guitar. And then all of a sudden the first song kicks. It just kicks in and you know that you're ready for the journey. What can you tell me about the first track? Is it pronounced Anabasis? And I'm looking.
I actually have no idea how it's pronounced.
Okay.
I read it in a book. It's a Greek word for march to the interior. So like when the Greeks would invade a country and they knew they would have to make this journey to the like capital of the country or whatever back in ancient Greek warfare, it was called Anabasis. But they also, being philosophers, they use that as a like examination of the self. Like how do you a march to the interior of the self, you know? So it's kind of self-reflective. And I don't know. I just thought it was a cool word.
I love it.
Very
you know,
cool.
I also, as we go down the tracks, I get this. It's very interesting listening to this album because, you know, sometimes you get in stoner, fuzz, doom, whatever, and you get these 12-minute tracks that, you know, sometimes they linger, sometimes it has a full, you know, meaningful resonance with you. But these tracks fairly, you know, like they all look so unbelievably, I don't want to say radio ready, but I mean radio ready in the amount of time. And you encapsulate so much into a short period where, as a personal listener, I feel completely fulfilled, yet I could have that track go on for triple the length and I would still love it, you know, which I love that. Now, discussing the songwriting process, and since so many of the guys, you know, added more than you know, usually it's tripping the majority of the songwriting. Do you feel that your location affected your songwriting? You know, where you're currently living?
Absolutely. For me personally, yes. Where I was living 1,000% influenced the songwriting because at the time, most of the songs were written in a period of time where I was living in North California,
right
outside of San Francisco, and was going to shows every night of the week almost because there's that much happening there that you could do that. And was seeing a lot of really amazing performances that then would inspire me to go home, plug in my guitar to the computer, pull up the drummer on Logic and go, and just try to, like, you know, have this flow state writing experience where I'm not thinking too much. I'm just creating. If it didn't work out, doesn't matter. It's still an exercise. And then after that, we lived in the desert north of Albuquerque, south of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and that absolutely influenced a lot of the songwriting as well. So for me personally, yes.
Okay. And excuse me. How about Eric?
Yeah, I mean, it was fun working with Matt, because when Matt was living in Albuquerque, or north of Albuquerque, I think I came down maybe 2 or 3 times, and that's where we wrote "Goddamn Wolfman." Was just being out there and just hanging out, drinking beers, and being on his. And he was in a really cool spot when he was out in north of Albuquerque on like some land, and it was just a different pace, and it was fun to kind of get away from the city of Denver and come down there and write, and always had a really good time kind of just ripping through some stuff that Matt had worked on and taking tracks that Wally and Trip had also sent us digitally that we could work on. So yeah, I would definitely say that I was inspired being outside of Memphis.
And Trip, how about yourself? I know you said you had some health issue or something that prevented some of the process. Did that come out lyrically in any of the tracks? And we can go over it later.
You know what? Honestly, what was so crazy about it was everything was written pre-health issue. So everything was pretty much done at that point, and that's what made it so bizarre, because I was singing these things that I had written as like I feel like going through what I went through medically aged me by about 5 extra years, and I feel like everything what I was going through was very virile and like young and energetic, and so then to go through what I was going through and being on all the medicine I was on, to then sing the same things that I had written when I was very like charged up was just a really interesting. I don't know. I think it ended up with a really interesting result that you couldn't really have planned for if you wanted to. But yeah, I mean, I was in Austin too, so there's a huge psych rock scene in Austin. So between
there is
Eric being out in the Pacific Northwest, or however Colorado in the mountains is technically classified, and even when Matt lived in San Francisco, we were on tour and we got to visit him. And we went to, what was the park we went to, Matt, outside of Half Moon Bay with the giant trees? Can't remember the name.
Maybe? Or
yeah.
There was another one too. Butano State Park.
Yeah.
Huge redwoods. Yeah.
Yeah. They, like all of that, like kind of filtered in, because we've made so many Memphis albums. This is probably the first album that like had other cities influenced in it or whatever.
And I it's silly because I know, obviously, we're going through a weird time right now, and people are kind of isolated, and you might have the template and not even have known that this could be the future, where people are going to be taking tracks from different states and et cetera, but also the beauty of hearing the differences that the location provided you. I mean, it all came together, I think, with something incredibly cohesive. I don't know, man. I'm loving it, and I would love to go into the next track, which is Made for the Age. What can you tell me about that track?
That one sort of was written just out of. Honestly, I don't remember. It was mostly written in New Mexico for sure. Living out there, going hiking through the mountains and seeing the expansiveness we were in, and
right.
I'd just been really, really into a lot of like hyper kind of speed, heavy space fuzz rock, I guess is what you would call it. Like, There's this band called Five that has this song or this record called Hesperus that's just like insane. There's no vocals. It's just heavy ass guitars and bass and drums, but it's kind of like this cosmic ride. And I wanted to do a version of that maybe, or something just that was, it just, honestly, man, the riff just kind of happened. It was the first riff, that intro riff. I just started playing that. I was like, oh shit, that's pretty cool. And then from there, it just kind of built out. It's structured, half the time I'm just plugging into, my interface, going into Logic and using some dummy amp sound, or like using some practice amp or something.
Right.
And just getting going and not really worried about the details about like this is not forever. This is just the template for the idea, and just building on that. And, you know, that program has this built-in drummer software that is really intuitive to where you can track out a song essentially with like minimal effort almost. So it's good to build from and kind of like, just like I said earlier, like flow state, just go and just not think and just write and play guitar and just see what falls out, and then arrange later. You know, I would start the idea, have it for 4 hours maybe. I'd be lost in that place because what the hell else was I going to do? I lived on, you know, in the middle of nowhere, dude, literally. And we just get to that point and then would kind of go back and then send out to folks and say, hey, like, what do you think of this?
Right on.
Yeah, that was a really difficult song for me to play drums to, because, I mean, obviously, like a lot of our songs are, you know, they're 3 minutes long, and I don't know how long that song is, maybe 5 minutes or something, but it was, there's a lot of different changes in it, and I was just getting lost in it to the point where I literally had to write out like a song structure, put it on the drum, and just kind of read it like a map, because I was getting lost in it. And and when we're recording, you know, we're trying to track everything in 5 days. Like, we can't spend too much time on one song. So, like, you know, after like an hour, you've done 5 takes of it, it's going to sound like crap because it's just not there anymore. Like, the energy, you're just drained. So for that track in particular, I remember we got like the best take we could. And Matt later on, and this is to Tripp's point about recording with Matt, is like, he was like, man, this isn't good enough. Like, this, you're going to have to come out to Memphis and we're going to have to redo this track. And I was like, fuck, all right, fine. So I ended up flying out to Memphis and retracking that, and also using the studio time to do some extra guitars and stuff too. So that one was a doozy to record for me specifically.
I gotcha. And you know what, Matt, again, dude, I don't know, man. I just love the way it was mixed and mastered. The entire record, just
Thank
fantastic.
I appreciate that.
Would you be open, or do you do that for other bands as well? Is that something?
Absolutely? Yeah, I mean, mixing, recording is my livelihood at this point. It's part of the reason I moved back to Memphis, is I got an opportunity to work at a budding studio that was kind of left to the wayside for a few years, and it was left unattended to, and it's now had a resurgence of culture coming through the door. And my studio partner Calvin Lauber and our studio manager Blair Davis, we run and operate a studio in Memphis called Young Avenue Sound. And I mean, that's basically the way I make my living out here, is through that. So
gotcha.
It is absolutely something I do for other bands, and it is how I've been existing through the COVID crisis, is through mixing from home exclusively at this point.
So that's the answer. Hit this guy up. If any of the bands that are listening out there and you want to hear a fantastic sounding record, you got to hit this dude up. Now, it's so funny because, and I said this off mic, I don't mind saying it on mic, like, I wrote these questions and ideas a while ago when I was quite a bit polluted. So I was really high, and I noticed I could see where I just started writing things down. Like, I was so into listening to the first few tracks that I completely forgot. Like, oh shit, I got to write stuff down. Awesome. It's just fun to me. And so I was going to work yesterday, and I got the new release cranking in the car, which is also the big test for me. Whether you saw the old movie The Rocker or whatever, like, you got to listen to it in the car to see how it sounds. And it just, in feeling it, I felt Memphis for some reason, and it reminded me of an old track. There was this, and I've mentioned this band before, Rock City Angels, and there was this video. You can check them out. It was for a song called Deep Inside My Heart, and the first thing this guy said is, "Hey, let's go try and get some kind of this Memphis sound." And I was like, "This is it, man." And
interesting.
It also brings me to the next track that I'm really, really interested about, Hand of Bear. When I heard it, I kind of, in my own mind, got this idea of whoever wrote this piece. I got this Jim Croce style of an explanation of a person. Who wrote that?
So the music, the riffs and everything were written by Wally, the bass player that's not currently here because he's visiting his little niece.
All right.
But yeah, the lyrics were something that I came up with off the cuff, because we decided we have this weird thing that kind of comes out sometimes that's kind of tribal and Native American-y.
Yep.
And so we all kind of came to the same conclusion that it has this kind of Native American thump to it. But we didn't want to do anything cheesy because we have so many friends that are of indigenous people. Like we didn't want to like do the typical white guy thing and just completely co-opt Native American culture. So, I decided to write it about a giant Native American guy that kills white people for being on his land. As I wrote that, everybody was like, hell yeah, that's badass. And we just kind of fleshed it out from there.
It's such a well, every once in a while you hear a song and you're like, I didn't quite get what they were describing the person as. But as soon as you describe it through the lyrical content, I'm just like, of course, yes, it's exactly, I got that perfect mental image. And I thought that songwriting just, I don't know why, it just hit me so damn hard.
Hell yeah! Thank you. Yeah, the Wally riffs tend to do that. That's why we keep them around.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. When that riff was delivered from him too, we all kind of felt that tribal beat power too. And being in New Mexico, you're heavily surrounded by all types of Native American pueblos and indigenous people, and I have a huge respect and love for that community. And we talked about how should we approach this, because we didn't want to come off as appropriating a culture or in any way disrespectful. But we felt that in the end it was part of our duty to put it in the song, because it's just so amazing and it just so empowering, I feel like, and it's important to recognize.
Right on. I hear that. Now, Eric, did you have anything to add to that track?
No, I mean, just to piggyback off what Tripp said, I mean, Wally writes some of the grooviest shit we have, or he wrote some of the groovier songs. And as a drummer and part of the rhythm section, it's hard to not just like jump in on that, and like definitely feeling the vibe we were going for. Like I wanted to work with more toms on it and add a little bit of tom working in that kind of give it that extra push and that extra feel. So, absolutely. I mean, that's definitely one of my favorite tracks to play and listen to from that album.
But speaking of shit that's fucking hard to figure out in the studio, I mean, fucking Wally was killing me and Matt with all those fucking riffs in that song. I mean, there's like he had it. It was so funny. He was not like letting us get away with any type of bullshit. We would like kind of try and like, phone in one part of the riff. And he was like, no, dude, it goes like this. And he hammered us. And the result is great. So he was right. And we knew he was right, which is why we followed his lead. But man, that song is a fucking bitch and a half to learn how to play.
There's that bounce to it and the guitar rhythm that we needed to lock in, dude.
And it's a long ass fucking riff. I mean, the riff is so long. Like, I don't know.
It's great, though.
I love it, but it's just funny. That's Wally, man. He's a powerhouse.
Yeah. That is awesome. Now, okay, so those few tracks, those are the ones that I had written recent notes for. Now we're going to go back to some other stuff. Late night. The first thing I get is, and I don't know if you guys do this intentionally or whatever, but I notice like I get such, not quite misdirections, but it's like I never know where. Like even in Anabasis, like I didn't know where it was going, and then boom. Like, is that intentional, or is that something like you just gotta you're setting you're setting up the listener for like get ready for a ride, or is it just like you just like how what's the process behind that?
Well, I think in general our thing has always been like, and I because we all take making music and making art is cocksuckery as that sounds, like seriously, it's always cool to try and do something different, right? And not totally cliche. Like I'm not going to bust any bands out in particular, because everybody's got their hustle, and however you make your money, man, props to you, because it's a crazy world out there. But Eric calls them copy pasta bands. There's just a lot of bands that just do the same shit.
Yep.
And like, we do that too. Don't get me wrong. I don't think we're Radiohead or anything like that, but like,
we're
that's
not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, but that's kind of why we take the time to make some unexpected shit that kind of bends in different directions sometimes, because for our own peace of mind, we don't want to, be a copy pasta, for lack of a better way to put it, or whatever.
And it's so true, because like, there's something about when I listen to music like that I'm not quite sure of the direction. And I know you guys can't usually see it because you're not with anybody listening to it, but there's that wry, slight smile that I get, and that hint of like, I see what you did there, and I love it. And I get so great. Appreciative. And if you have anything more on Late Night, I'd like to hear it. But as I started listening to it, he reminded me of someone that, guys, if you ever come out to the West Coast and decide to tour, there is another band that I really feel has that similar connection, even lyrically and etc. Are you familiar with a band called the Dead Country Gentlemen, or Dead Country Gentlemen?
I feel like I've heard of them, but I'm not super familiar with them.
It's
I've heard of them.
Yeah, Cameron is like the lead guy. It's usually it's a 2-piece band. Just that similar feel that I get, where it's that what's happening, and then I crack that little smile. I'm like, okay, I got you. And in listening to Late Night, obviously for me, it feels like it was a really late night for this track. And the thing I got about it was like, you got a good time making some bad decisions, and you're owning it. What can you tell me about Late Night?
So it started off with Eric sent me that the thing that is actually on the song is actually a voice memo that Eric played on like a pencil and a pint glass. What was it, Eric?
Yeah, that's right. It was a pint glass with water in it, and the table and a pencil.
And it was basically like me getting on Eric's nerves, being like, send me anything. Send me a beat. I don't care. I don't care if it's like, I maybe even said, I don't care if it's a pint glass and a pencil. Like, send me some type of rhythmic thing for me to work off of.
Right.
And he sent me that, and I sent him a riff back, which ended up being the opening riff. And because I had this guitar tone in mind that I wanted to use, but it needed a lot of space because of just sonically how much room it takes up or whatever. It's really, really big. And so I sent it to Eric, and Eric was like, hell yeah, this is great. When we were at the studio, I don't know, Matt, do you know if it was Cabby's baritone? Whose baritone guitar was that you were playing?
Yeah, it was Cabby's. It was a it was a 4-string. No, was it a baritone or was it a bass?
I think it was a baritone. It was a Dan Electro baritone.
Yeah, it was a Dano. I remember that. I remember though only playing the whole song on one string though, because to make it work in the key that like you were in.
Right.
I remember I just found like the lowest note you had, and I tuned the guitar to that. Yeah. And then I just played on the one string up and down the neck. It worked out cool, but yeah, that was a good one.
Right on.
Was that your Pog that was the?
No, because that was something that either Andy. Oh
yeah, it was Andy.
Or the
Shout out
Sundog.
to Andy Othling, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, Andy Othling, man, the ultimate G-Dog gangster. He brought us some pedals, man, that blow your freaking tits off, man. That shit was crazy.
Yep. Thank you, Andy.
Yes, thank you, Andy. We love you, Andy. What's Andy's Instagram?
Andy Othling, dude. He's
Andy,
out there,
dude. If you want to see some dude with some crazy ass fucking pedals, follow Andy Othling on Instagram.
Yeah, he's doing this morning care show every morning where he makes ambient music. And it's amazing. He's an awesome dude.
He's in an ambient band called Lowercase Noises. That's killer, absolutely killer.
It's funny.
Right. He is the band basically, but
as you said it, I was saying when you did say ambient. Right?
Yes.
Okay, because the first time I heard it, and it was just casual, he's like, yeah, he makes some ambient music, and I'm like, and it's morning. It's like,
Hey, you don't know that genre, ambient?
Ambient style, dude.
it makes sense to do it in the morning because it's like you're groggy and it's weird and it's fucked up. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I'm fine. I guess that's another genre that I'm just not aware of.
It's basically music that sounds like the music in the back of Planet Earth. While all these amazing scenescapes are happening, there's this sound that's happening.
Yeah,
right.
It's basically
it's like very akin to that. It just sounds like otherworldly, but he creates it with one guitar and a few pedals and maybe some MIDI.
That's awesome.
It's incredible.
Now, in the next track, we have the goddamn Wolfman. Unique drum part for me to begin. I'm curious who the Wolfman is. I heard this, to me, around the 2 minute and change, like 2:05 mark, this gorgeous distorted solo. Now, was that Justin? Justin Thomas?
Yeah.
That did that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lyrical content, man. I mean, you're so much worse in your heart of hearts than the monsters you create. Oof. All right. Let's just. You don't have to tell me a whole lot, but please tell me who wrote that.
So I wrote all that stuff, and I basically only made it halfway clever because if you're going to say stupid shit like goddamn Wolfman and fuck yeah Frankenstein, you have to at least follow up with something like semi-decent. Otherwise, you're just making a Kid Rock song, which no hate, once again. Kid Rock does his thing and I ain't mad at him or whatever.
Ball with the ball, baby.
But, I mean, come on. How many... Look, let's be realistic about this. How many bands in this genre are going to have a Count Chocula reference? Please.
Well, the funniest part is that's from Wedding Crashers or whatever. When Owen Wilson's talking to what's his name?
Vaughn.
Vince. When Owen Wilson's talking to Vince Vaughn, and he's like, "I want to be Cowboys from Oakland or Pimps from Arizona, but it's not going to happen. Grow up, Count Chocula, Peter Pan, or whatever." And I just I don't know why that stuck with me, but I just thought that was the funniest shit, calling somebody Count Chocula. So plus it worked for alliteration purposes and shit. I don't know.
So who is the goddamn Wolfman?
I don't know. The whole song is just basically about me bitching out baby boomers without actually doing it, so I don't have to hear about it on social media. But it's just thinly veiled attacks on baby boomers and how they just get on my nerves sometimes.
Yeah, that can definitely happen without question. Now, on Bright Light, that solo. Damn, I wish I could. That's one of the ones that I wish I could have went on for days. I thought that solo was just brilliant, and it's like a person that makes you feel better, or but the person never reciprocates. I don't know. It's I got this anyway. I guess the better question is, who wrote that, and what can you tell me about it?
So Bright Light is a Wally riff. Wally has this habit of recording songs and then not showing them to anyone. So we have to pull out a 38 special pistol and hold him at gunpoint and say, "Show us what's on your fucking phone right now."
Right.
Give us that fucking phone, Wally. And that was one of those ones that it's also kind of cool because Wally's just kind of a riff machine where I can just tell him my idea. Like for that, I was like, we need some weird stuff, man. We got to start being weird. Same thing, trying to push ourselves to not just stay in the same box. And I was like, we need a reverb riff. It would be really cool to have some more palm muty reverb riffs. And Wally was like, "Oh, okay." And then a week later, he was like, "Is this any good?" And I was like, "Yes, that's great. What's wrong with you? Why don't you show me all of this stuff?" And then I had the lyrics for a long time. And yeah, I don't know. Basically the guy in the song goes through what all men go through, which is in the beginning, he's trying to be too cool for school.
Yep. In
the middle, he admits he really wants the chick to himself. And then the third part is him admitting to her finally that hey, I'm tired of being a cool guy. like I want to, that journey we all go on as men with the women we love. So
do you think, Trip, do you think that the woman is okay with him just being himself?
In Bright Light?
Yeah.
I don't think it matters. I think the whole thing is he's just being honest about not being a player by the end of the song. Like the first part is kind of how you talk about a chick that you're interested in around your guy friends, and then the second part is you admitting you actually have feelings,
right?
And then the third part is you finally just coming to terms and putting it out there.
And then the fourth part is when you start farting incessantly around your woman. That's
the outro.
Yeah, that's or the reprise on track 11.
Yeah, there you go.
A cat named Haku or Haku. I got a lot of stuff, but it's like I know Haku is like a mercenary ninja. I know it's also one badass wrestler that had some incredible stories. I don't know if you're familiar with the wrestler, and I grew up watching it and seeing Haku. And I didn't know that he was such a beast, like a monster in and out, but in a, gentle giant, but still like this guy ripped your damn head off and not even think about it. I know there was a story where he was in a bar and there was drama about people calling wrestling fake, and he got into it with a guy and he's like, guess what? That nose is coming off, bit off his nose. And I'm like, what? Damn, son, welcome to the bar. Jesus. So what can you tell me about a cat named Haku?
So that is actually, I didn't know any of that about the wrestler guy. That's pretty fucking sick. So Cabby, the guy who recorded the album in his garage with us, he has a cat named Haku that is just one of the most hilarious creatures I've ever had the pleasure of getting to know or whatever. And his just stories about Haku, I had this psychedelic song. The riff is written by Wally originally, of course, because it's got that heavy Wally swing groove to it or whatever.
Right.
And the transition is weird. We wanted to start, once again, with Matt. Matt, I feel like, has always been a big psych rock fan. Same thing with Eric. And me, once again, living in Austin, I kind of got a more severe appreciation for psych rock. So we wanted to start putting those elements in there, but it's a tough transition from the heaviness of the Wally riff to the weirdness of that psych part. So I was really struggling coming up with singing that would work. And for some reason, just like the silly ass nature of that cat, just in my mind, fit perfectly with the tone of the song or whatever. And I just remember Cabby telling us a story about how the cat Haku would not go outside for the life of him. And Cabby was kind of like, "What's up, dude? Like, why don't you go outside?" And then like a couple days later, he talked to a neighbor of his or something that said that these like wild bobcats or these wild like desert cats were actually roaming the neighborhood killing shit. And it was actually Haku's instincts to be like, because he had adopted Haku as like a wild cat or whatever.
Right.
And his instincts were, he just knew that there was like danger out there. And he was like, "Nah, fuck that. I ain't going out there." And I just thought that was kind of profound that like he was kind of clued into it when Cabby wasn't. And I don't know. I thought that was kind of an interesting story in and of itself. Plus, I just love that damn cat. So he was worthy of getting a song named after him. And
what's crazy about it, as I look back on some notes, I feel like the solo reflected that because as I'm hearing the solo, I feel like, it's kind of hidden in the shadow. Like it's not ready to, whatever you're discussing or the point you're trying to get across, it isn't going out. It's there and it's tasty and it's one, it's delicious, but we're keeping it over here because something else is going on. There's almost like, I can't think of that. It's not forbearance, but it's like you're almost foreshadowing your own destiny in a way. Like you're just trepidatious about doing, whatever the next thing is.
Right, 100%, and that's Wally too. Wally's actually a better guitar player than I am, so when we put that motherfucker to work. He did the solo on Bright Light and Haku, I believe.
That was a two-parter. That was shared between like a couple of the solos are shared between like Wally and Tracy, and then I think Haiku is me and Wally, because it's like the first half is me, the second half is Wally.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Fuck yeah, okay.
Yeah, there was like a bunch of shit like that where we were just like, man, do whatever you want, just play on whatever. Let's just let's get insane with this shit, you know?
Well, the vibe hit. Eric, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I love that song. That song is real fun to play. And again, Wally just writes some really groovy shit. So as a dude that's in a rhythm section, like you just really get in the pocket of that song.
Right on. Let's move to the next track, The Profession. I mean, what is The Profession? Is this like a lift me up, tear me down kind of thing, or what can you tell me about that track?
So it's actually based off a book by an author named Stephen Pressfield. He has a book called The Profession. I hope he doesn't sue us. It's an homage. We love you, Stephen Pressfield.
It's all good.
But it's basically about a soldier in the near future who, I mean, Stephen Pressfield is an ex-Marine who studies like history and combat and stuff. So he's basically just kind of calling it how it's going. He's a soldier in the future that works for corporate interests because governments are just a shell of what they once were, and armies are just used to take oil fields and that kind of stuff. And it's a very interesting read because he wrote the book assuming that Trump would never become president and that Trump would open up Trump News Network. So throughout the whole book that's set like 20 years in the future, he constantly references Trump News Network. And I think that's part of the reason the book didn't take off is because...
That is incredible.
He misfired. I mean, the rest of the book is incredibly accurate. He does his research. He talks to people who have actually fought in the Middle East and blah, blah, blah. But it's essentially about how the dude is just a soldier for hire and he doesn't even care that he's working for corporate interests or whatever. He's a soldier. He has to do his job. And, as a musician, that's kind of how it is sometimes. You can't really care about what you're doing. You kind of just have to do what you're good at and hope that it all works out in the end. So.
And Justin Tracy took a little bit of that solo. Can you tell me anything about that?
I think that was Matt, though, right? Matt, didn't you play the solo on The Profession?
I don't remember. Hang on, I have to hear it.
Because the build up is you, and then maybe Justin does the Profession solo at the very end or something. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, it's another deal where it's
you
me
do the
and
build
Tracy,
up. And then Justin plays like the little outro solo.
Right on.
Right. I play I play through the bridge, and then he's the outro chorus solo part. Yeah.
Right.
And that one was fun because he definitely we were in the studio. It was the first time he had heard the fucking song. I had a while to kind of figure out what I was going to play. And then I told him, I was just like, just go to space with it. And I remember he didn't want to play the wah and focus on the solo at the same time. So I was like, do it. I'll play the wah.
Right.
So I played the wah while he played the notes, which was pretty fun to try to anticipate where someone is going, but have no idea really, and just make it happen. And I think that was one or two takes. He just fired that shit off.
And that's just a testament to, the musicianship and how good you guys can create something, even though I know you guys are all in the band, but you have an outside person coming in and just adding some mad flavor to it that God damn it, I hate it when you say shit like that. I'm sorry.
No, but you're right.
Just me saying
Justin
mad
has a really
flavor.
cool style.
I feel like I suddenly should be in the 90s, early 90s wearing
but Justin does have mad flavor. He does. He does have mad flavor. I think that's accurate.
All right.
Yeah, Justin's a great dude. He's been on damn near every album, I think, maybe except the first one, I think it's just All of Us, but
he's on Mara. He plays the solo on One Hand on the Buffalo, right?
Yeah, One Hand on the Buffalo. Yeah.
Yep.
He just got this I don't know, man.
He's got a Billy Gibbons ZZ Top thing, man. He's not in a rush at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like every note out, and like I'm jealous of it in a way, but that's also why I like putting him to work. Because
this album, didn't he say he didn't want to? Because he'd been doing like, I think he did that song and another slow song. I think maybe The Fool he did a solo on.
Yeah.
So he wanted to be like, I want to do like a faster song, and that's why he took a piece of that song.
Right on.
Yeah, that's why he ended up doing The Profession.
Mm-hmm.
And let's go into this next track, Veracruz. Now, I'm going to assume, I'm stepping out on a limb here. I'm going to assume, Matt, that you wrote this. Would that be correct or no?
Yeah, this one was another one that was created out of inspiration of living in outside of San Francisco and Half Moon Bay. From seeing all the shows we were going to and stuff. It was just.
I'm very interested.
It was awesome.
There's a cross sound on it that feels so fluid. Like I have two different ideas that kind of, you're not sure if they're gonna intersect or not, and they do. This like Southern California fuzzy desert, love of the West Coast, honoring West Coast, and then somewhere around this 220 mark or so, I got this feeling of like an underlying evil. Of like this seedy filth.
Hell yeah.
It's like a seedy filth around the same area that you get such great vibes about. Now, I could be totally out of my fucking league, but...
No, you're right. The bridge was written as a part of just a way to contrast the melodic, major chordal nature of the chorus part there. It's definitely a good time, bouncy vibe kind of song, especially with the rhythm of that. And then that bridge is just meant to kind of remind you what we're here for, that it's still about being heavy.
Absolutely. And it completely comes across. And what can you tell me about the last track, which is Idle Hands? I know I get this like breaking free of old thoughts and relationships. Personally, I think it's desert rock at its finest. And what can you tell me about it?
So the track title actually comes from Idle Hands Tattoo. Is Idle Hands in Phoenix or is it in Mesa?
That is Mesa. That is JR.
Yeah. So it's a shout out to JR and all the dudes from Stone Witch for their hospitality. I mean, like we've played a lot of different cities, and the warm, for me particularly, Matt was not playing with us at this point yet, but he was already living out in California or whatever, and that was my first really trip into the desert, and I like the journey there was so strange and surreal. Like we met up in Denver, and then we drove through southern Utah to get to Phoenix. And southern Utah, I did not realize at the time, because I'm a hick from Mississippi, how beautiful high desert southern Utah is. I mean, it was just blowing my mind the whole drive. And then there was even something kind of psychedelic about driving through Flagstaff at midnight and having it be 100 degrees still. I was just like, what universe am I in? And then to get into Phoenix or Mesa so late at night and have JR embrace us and, offer up his home and just his beautiful family. And I don't know. I was like, man, this is at least worth writing one song about. So it's kind of a desert riff as a tribute to my feelings about how that was kind of that was my first hit of crack when it comes to the desert life. They gave me that one for free, and now I'm addicted to the desert life. I get back as often as I can.
I appreciate that. I mean, I love it out here. It's like, the total bullshit joking of, it's a dry heat. It is a dry heat, and it's fucking hot. And I came from Florida, which was way humid. I don't need that.
Right.
I don't need that anymore. And God, man, being like somewhere in Memphis, that humidity's it would curl my hair, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's like growing up here and being used to like 88 degree weather, but 80% humidity, making me sweat out of my asshole.
Yes.
And then going to the desert where, same thing. We played Yucca Tap Room or whatever, and I walked across the street to get like a Coke or something from the grocery store. And even at 10:30 at night, the pavement was still just seething desert sun heat. And it was just crazy to me. And like, once again, it is like, without taking psychedelics, it's as close to a psychedelic experience as I've ever had as someone who wasn't used to it, because it was just blowing my mind from like a sensory like point of view. I was like, there's no sun, but I'm feeling heat from the ground. Like, how the fuck does this work? I don't know. I love it. Obviously, it fascinates me endlessly, and the people it produces are a large part of that.
It's a strange feeling when it, like you say, like it's 11 o'clock or it's midnight or something, and you walk outside and it honestly feels like a hairdryer is hitting you in the face.
It's cool, though. I kind of like it, honestly. I don't know if that means I'm a lizard person or what, but
I think that is it. So what can you exactly tell me about the Illuminati? You have any?
Not a whole lot right now. You got to be phase 3. You got to be phase 3 before you can learn anything else.
All right, so it's basically what you're saying. It's above your pay grade. Is it above your pay grade? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, essentially. That was me trying to sound important, but I don't know anything. I'm a very low-level lizard person.
Fair enough. That's understandable. We all have our things. I have my things that I can't talk about either. That's fair. We'll just we'll leave that to someone else, maybe David Icke or something like that. Okay, so gentlemen, thank you so much for going over the record. Do you mind if I ask you finally some just quick back and forth questions?
Sure.
About some of the process and ideas and stuff.
Totally.
What is the first song each of you learned?
I think the first song I learned how to play and sing to all the way through was Dead Leaves in the Dirty Ground by the White Stripes. But
Bravo.
The first song I learned on guitar was probably a Third Eye Blind song. Or Stairway to Heaven. I can't remember.
Okay. All right. Excuse me. Matt?
Man, I honestly cannot remember the first song I learned on guitar. It was so long ago. I want to say it's some bullshit like Smells Like Teen Spirit or something like that. Some kind of like easy guitar starter riff type thing. Right. Definitely not anything cool. Probably like, fucking like Guns N' Roses, do, there you go. Shit like that, your traditional I'm a guitar player crap,
Yeah, a little showcasing. I get it.
That Guitar World shit.
Oh, also Rage Against the Machine, heavy first influence, because one string most of the time, or like power chords. I remember that. I remember digging into that and like a lot of like punk, because it was all power chords.
And Eric.
I'm not sure. It's either Damn It by Blink-182 or I forget the song, but it's off of a Green Day album. I think it was off of Nimrod, and I don't remember the track. But okay. I remember playing with my friends and just easy shit that we could play, right? Nothing too complicated. You could fuck it up and it'd be fine.
Yeah. I hear that every once in a while. A band comes off stage and, even if it's a local residing band or something, and they're like, "What'd you think?" And I'm like, "I thought it was awesome." I said, "What'd you feel about the 3 parts where we fucked up?" I'm like, no one cared. Like, yeah, and I know it's
totally nobody cares. Yeah,
nobody probably even noticed.
I always appreciate when the bands are that passionate about it. Like, but just know that, as a actual fan, you give me some heavy riffs, I'm good, man. You give me some pounding beats, I'm good, and the rest of it, some days are diamonds, some days are stones. Yep. For this latest release, Love Like Machines, what was the hardest song to create and the easiest song to create?
I think.
Go ahead.
Shit.
For me, it was Made for the Ages the hardest.
Yeah, I think that was the hardest.
The hardest for me to lay down. For sure.
Yeah, it was 2 versions we cut of it. It was a lot of work to get that one right.
Okay.
I think I don't know. What do you guys remember the easiest at Cabby's? Because I know a couple of them are like 100% live. on the floor. We didn't have to go back and redo
Weirdly
guitars or anything like
bright
that.
light came
Yeah, I
through.
feel like
Like
I feel like
bright light
was
for
real
everybody
easy.
learning in the room came together really good. I mean, Veracruz was tough because once again, I went through my hospital stay and I just did not have the same singing that I did before for obvious reasons. And then, Wally's song Hand of Bear was just a fucking tough fucking task to fucking tackle, man. Like,
I remember Late Night coming together pretty easy too.
Yeah,
like, I
Late
remember
Night
we did
was-
that one in a couple takes.
Right.
We like pounded that one out fast.
Goddamn Wolfman was super fast.
Yeah.
Idle Hands, I think, was the one. Like, I think we got that in a pretty couple takes or whatever. So
I know a couple of them, or maybe one or two. I remember I didn't even play with you guys with Wally, Tripp, and Eric because
I did that
didn't
too, though.
have
I remember
anything.
Made for the Age was that way. Y'all three did it, and I just got to hang out with Tabby and Haku.
Totally. I remember that because I remember there were a couple times when I was like, I really feel like I got nothing to bring to the table to this at this moment.
We had such
it's better
a
for me to
short
just
amount
be
of
out of the
time.
room. Right. Yeah.
You know.
Totally.
And we
There's
knew-
no point in me like filling space up if it's not going to be legit there forever.
We knew we could always put more guitars on, but drums we needed. So we were like, well, as long as the drums get done, we can do everything.
Well, the drums
else
and like the feel. We wanted the live feel.
Yeah.
It's super important to the way we record too. Is not about multi-tracking or overdubbing. And most of the records are definitely the first two are the band live in the same room together with no isolation.
Right.
He Dreams of Lions we did at Ardent Studios, which had more space and more booths, but a lot of that was a lot like 100% live. This one was a little more doctored up from the live takes, but still at the end of the day, it's based off a live performance that we played together, not to a metronome or anything like that. There's no manufacturing of the feeling of the vibe or the tempo of the songs or anything like that. And that's kind of part of what Made for the Age, why we went back and re-recorded that, is because I didn't want to have to manufacture that and edit my way through it, because that's not how rock and roll is made, in my opinion. That's bullshit, you know? So it was a lot easier for us to just come back and do it again.
Oh, I appreciate, Matt, I know you froze up for a second. I don't know if you guys can see him kind of froze up mid
Yeah,
talk
I
there.
can. It's kind of funny.
Maybe I don't know. He might have to come back. I'm not
See if
sure.
I can take a screenshot. No, it won't let me.
It's perfect. But you know what? If Matt comes back or not, we'll kind of vamp a little bit. But I believe exactly what Matt said. Like, just in the idea of you create a riff and it's just enough, and we're not going to let it linger too long. Give you that big taste, and then boom, and you move on to the next track. I really yes, I completely appreciate how Matt just described that. Do you think he's done? Or do you think he's coming back?
I don't know. I don't know. I'll text him. I don't know where he went.
All right. No worries. I can move this around and edit it or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Just just text him and see if he's because I don't want to if he's available. I don't want him to miss out.
Yeah. No. Totally. He's probably just.
He said something about his phone dying earlier.
That might be. He could.
I probably got about 15, 20 minutes before I need to go get my hair did. I hate to be a diva, but
no, dude. We don't have much more.
Cool.
And we can go. At least at the end, it's more like just rapid fire bullshit.
Cool.
So people can enjoy you.
It sucks because I'm enjoying myself. I wish I didn't have my haircut, but my haircut lady Kat will chop my head off.
That's okay. So. And we, through the rest of this, we at least have a great picture of Matt showing how he gives, rest area hand jobs. It's a perfect picture. I can't bet better. Okay.
Yeah, you really couldn't have planned it out any better.
So before I come back in, I just want to let you know, and thank you, Tripp. I appreciate what you just said. That means a lot. And if you want to, if any of you would like to come on again at a different time, and we do like a 20-minute, 15-minute interview, that's only a top 5. And it's the top 5 what? I don't care. I don't want to know before I talk to you. But it's like, what are your top 5? I don't know. Chris, I got top 5 hot sauces. I got the top 5 American flag designs that I really like. I got the top 5 tattoos I've gotten. It don't matter. Like, somebody actually...
for sure. I'd do that. I'd be into that, man. That'd be cool.
Right on. So we'll do that another time.
That'd be cool.
If you don't mind, I'm going to keep going so you can get out. And if Matt, it just says he left. If he calls back in, that's cool too. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back. I'm just going to go right back in. So Matt took a little dip out. He might be back. We're not quite really sure. But while I have the other two guys here, about this illustration, what can you tell me about the cover of Love Like Machines? Who did it and what is it about?
I drew it all myself. I'm a really talented artist, and no, that's one of my favorite jokes to play on our friend Emil. Emil is a super talented artist we know from here in Memphis. That luckily graces us with his talents to draw our album art and all that kind of stuff. So he's done every album so far, and he's done a couple T-shirts and stuff for us. He actually came up with our weightlifter logo guy. So he's just a super super talented cat, and he's always very involved. He sent me a text and was like, "Hey, can you send me your lyrics?" And of course, as an egomaniac, I was like, "Oh, of course I'll send you my lyrics." So I'm dying for someone to know about my lyrics. So I sent him the lyrics, and as he listened to the lyrics and listened to like the early tracking we had of the songs, he kind of came up with what he came up with, and it's just so fucking crazy and psychedelic and spaced out. I absolutely love it.
It really does. It's got a lot of different elements, a lot of bold colors, a lot of movement. Does he just? And I apologize because I don't know enough about Emil. Does he do a lot of commission stuff? Is he available for commissions for other bands and such?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. He does a lot of stuff, man. He does some woodworking. He does some graphic design every now and again. He's out there, man. Art of Emil Orth, I believe, is his website. So
okay, we'll have to put a link or something and check it out. I'm going to roll through these because I know you guys got a split. If your music could be in either a movie franchise or a genre of movie, what would it be?
I just want to be in a Tarantino movie. I don't know if that'll happen since he said he's only making 10, but all I could ever hope to be is Hugo Stieglitz killing Nazis while a heavy house song plays in the background. So if I could ever be in a Tarantino movie, that would be, I think I could die a happy man. But pretty much any action too, though. Like, if Arnold Schwarzenegger shooting a minigun at a Predator or whatever, that'd be cool too, That
sounds awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, Tarantino would be my number one draft pick.
And Eric?
Yeah, I would say action movie, but I would also gladly license our music to any Gene ad for any album. Like if we could just sell jeans, we would fucking do it.
Hey, if Ring Pops wants to sell our music to little kids, they can buy it. Ring Pop, you can hit us up. We don't give a fuck.
So I hope everybody hears that. The Heavy Eyes is saying, please, contact us, utilize us for your background musical needs.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Bravo, sir. Bravo. Is there anything, a hobby or anything that either of you do outside of your music that enhances or helps your creative process?
I think we all are really good about like exercise and sunshine and nature. I read an article the other day about how you can spend 2 hours studying or reading, but if you spend an hour studying and reading and then an hour exercising in some way, it's actually better for your brain than just spending 2 hours studying. So all of us live pretty active lifestyles, and I think that does help. Eric mountain bikes. I can't imagine that working out your legs like that doesn't help him slam into the fucking bass drum and hi-hat and shit better, So I think that's a big common thread with most of us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just quickly, I apologize. You said mountain bike. I got to ask, like, what's your bike of choice?
Well, I got a Santa Cruz right now. I've been riding that thing for like 5 seasons now. It's set up like a cross country bike, but it handles downhill real well.
Sure.
But I want to upgrade to. There's a brand called Evil that actually licensed one of our songs, and they are
Evil for life.
Yeah, right. Can we call them up and get a round of Evil sent over to all of us? They're only like a $5,000 bike. No big deal. I want to upgrade to an Evil, man. There's a bike. I think it's the Reckoning. It's fucking sick. And it's set up more of how I ride out here in Denver.
Right. Now, and pardon me, I apologize if I'm incorrect, but are these bikes like on the same level as like a Trek or a Cannondale, or is it? Are mine two different?
No, not at all. No. I mean, like I think every major bike brand has a downhill or full suspension bike that runs the gamut of different levels of riders. So yeah, no, Trek makes really great bikes. Like Trek I see dudes riding them all over town, man. I haven't ridden one myself, but they look sick, and I know they handle well.
And they're what, like about 15 ounces or something?
I mean, it depends what you go. If you got a all carbon, as much carbon as you can put on a bike. And again, it depends on the style of riding, because some dudes are just like gram freaks. They just want to carbon everything that they can on their bike just to save an ounce.
Yeah.
And other people, if you're thrashing your bike, you don't really care.
Right.
Some of these dudes at the bike parks out here are just fucking insane. And like I saw one dude, he didn't even have a fucking chain on his bike. He's just going up the lift and just like hucking backflips down. You're like, what the fuck's this dude do for a living? Like, did you have to go to work on Monday? Like, I'm out here with my buddies from work. This dude's hucking backflips in a full face and a neck brace. I'm like, Jesus Christ. All right, dude.
Fair enough, man.
So, yeah.
Living la vida loca.
Yes, I know. My bike, I would have to have the entire frame made out of lead, because nothing is going to support me. I'm
the same way.
Those carbon things ain't going to work. So here's the perfect scenario. All of you have enough money where you don't have to work. You don't, you just this constant stream. Do you still make music?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like I said, we all were in really good places after He Dreams of Lions came out. I mean, if we wanted to, we could have just been like, yeah, we're good. We're old. We're not doing this shit anymore. But there's always that one little voice memo Wally has that he shows me that gets me going like, damn, that's badass. And then there's always like a new fuzz pedal Matt Qualls gets, and he's like, check this shit out. Or Eric fucking plays a drum beat on a pint glass, it's just, the way I always put it to people who are timid about like starting to create their own music is like, we're all huge music fans. Hey, Matt Qualls.
Hey, what's up, brother?
Yeah,
sorry, I had to get
nice.
laptop.
That's okay.
You're good. You got here just in time to hear me wax long-winded. Go ahead,
Trip. You were mentioning again how important and amazing your lyrics were. Please continue.
Yeah, I just work really fucking hard, and I'm sick of Wally, Eric, and Matt stealing my shine. It's bullshit.
Trip. I don't know if you know. Matt just joined again, so please keep it at a.
Matt's back.
Yes, he is.
But I the way I always put it is like, we're all huge music fans, and like the first step of being a music crackhead is like your gateway drug is song you like on the radio, and then you start buying albums, and then you start creating your own music, and then once you finally get to the point where you're writing your own shit and then playing it in front of other people who enjoy it, that's like the heroine of music. Like, you can't really go back from that. Like, so I think we'll always create music in some form because we get so much out of it, regardless of if we're successful money wise or whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, for all three of you, what was the last book you read?
The last book I finished, because I'm a fucking millennial that can't fucking sit down and finish books anymore, was probably it may have actually been The Profession.
Okay.
That may have actually been the last book I sat down and finished. I'm currently reading another book by the same author called Tides of War. It's about Alcibiades. I don't know how you say it, but he's like the Athenian admiral that helped them basically just like establish their navy and kick everybody's ass, but I'm about halfway through it, so I hadn't finished yet.
Gotcha. Okay. Matt?
For me, it was the Glenn Johns autobiography. Came out a couple of years ago.
Okay.
I got into that I started it probably 2 or 3 years ago, but then I actually finished it pretty recently.
Right on. And Eric?
Yeah, so I've started like 20 books. Obviously, I have I still have Tripp's Moon Palace from, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, sitting on my nightstand. I swear to God, Tripp, I'm going to finish it. I love you. But the last, I literally have.
I like making you hold on to it as a token of shame.
I look at it every night before I go to bed, and I cry a little bit. And
exactly.
Every night he rips a page out.
I'm trying to make it shorter. Yeah. The last full book I finished was a book called The Wave by Susan Casey. It's a really interesting read about these random rogue freak waves out in the middle of the ocean that have just like taken out ocean liners.
Really? Okay. Is it a fiction book, or is there truth to that?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh yeah.
Oh, no shit.
I've heard about it. I haven't read the book, but I've heard about them. It's pretty crazy.
All right. Well, guys,
interesting shit. Yeah.
You know, guys, I know you got to go. So, last question. What are you all currently listening to now? What's some good stuff? And Matt, I know you mentioned before, or maybe it was Tripp, that you've been enjoying some good psych rock. Is there something current that you're listening to in psych rock that blows your skirt up?
Spec Joliet is a band here from Memphis that is fucking crushing it. Matt recorded them. If you want a good like snapshot of how versatile like Matt can be and his like engineering skill, Spec Joliet is an incredible psych rock band from here that it's a couple dudes from Mississippi that met at the Gibson Guitar Factory actually here downtown that came out with a psych rock album. But it's Spec is SPECK and Joliet is JOLIET. But they're really good. They actually just got added to the Neo psych rock playlist on Spotify, so they're getting some love. I also, there's this artist from Austin named Mobley who just continually, he doesn't even mean to be psychedelic because I don't believe he does any type of drugs or drinks or anything, but he's just so eccentric in the way he records his music. I just find him infinitely fascinating. So those are probably my two picks. And then the Dirty Streets have new songs out that are just absolutely killer, as per always. So those are probably my picks.
All right,
those dudes.
Let me go. Let's see, clockwise. Matt, what do you got?
For me personally, yeah, I mean, mad love to the spec guys for sure. They're awesome. That record is definitely bonkers. Like, it's insane how good they are. For me lately, though, there's this record by this band called Chicano Batman.
Hell yeah. Chicano Batman is the shit.
Their new album is so good. What else have I been listening to? There's this band called Yak. I'm not exactly sure where they're from, but I got hip to this track called Bellyache that they have that is fucking awesome. There's this other new group called the Shivas that I've been really into lately.
Right.
Just like great psychedelic nasty sound, like it was recorded on a cassette recorder type garage rock shit. Mm-hmm. And then there's this other band from Denver actually that I've really been into lately called the Velveteers, and they have like a very interesting sound, and I really, really dig what they're doing. And if any of them are listening, please let me work with you. I love you guys.
There you go. The word is out. And Eric, what can you tell us?
Yeah. Well, I mean, lately I've been trying to draw more inspiration. I've been talking to Tripp a lot about this. For more like pop music, honestly. I've been listening to a lot of, I don't know if I'm saying it's Khalid or Khalid, however you pronounce it. I like his music a lot. Some Miguel. And then Trip put me on this album by Tom Misch, and it's called What Kind of Music, and it's just a really, really good, funky, kind of upbeat album. So really trying to tap into some new influence, because like I listen to like so much psych rock, so much heavy metal, and it just all starts to sound the same after a while, and I don't want to write the same music over and over and over again. Yeah. So trying to draw inspiration from something else. But I listened to the new War Cloud, and that shit is bad fucking ass.
Yeah, dude.
Some like
War Cloud.
Trashy shit. Dude, I fucking
those dudes are
shit.
some bad motherfuckers, man. We got to see them. We played in Vegas with those dudes,
right?
And they fucking kick serious ass, dude. I don't. Where are those dudes from? Are they LA dudes?
Well, San Francisco.
San Francisco.
Yeah, I think they may be from Oakland. I think actually, I think they're from Oakland.
Here's the thing,
they're badass as fuck.
Alex, which lead singer, etc. He just moved over. I think he's in Austin now. Be honest.
Oh wow,
that wouldn't surprise me.
And Nick, oh shit! I just did an interview with Nick Burks a while ago. Nick is also in the band Stonecutters. I think he was in Virginia. I think he's in Virginia. So,
man, I can understand that. That area is insanely hard to live in.
Yeah, expenses, all that bullshit, and sometimes I don't know. I see people, maybe they get away from themselves. I don't know, but either way, yeah, you're 1,000%, man. The first release, even the second, and this live gig that they did from the Earhammer sessions, just killer stuff. And Nick brings such a bright light to it, because he's kind of the new guy in regarding the guitar. So, guys, I know you got to head out. I want to thank you all so much for giving me the amount of time. I really appreciate it. How can everybody reach you on social, and where can people buy your stuff? Did I lose you?
Oh, hey, you guys there?
I'm here.
Okay, sorry. Your earpods died.
Oh, okay. How can everybody get your stuff and reach out to you?
You can go to theheavyeyes.com. We have links to our merch pages, links to our band camps where you can stream our music. You can also stream on Spotify, on YouTube. I mean, we try to make our music as accessible as possible. So if there's somewhere you can't find our music, please let us know, because we'll try to be there. Absolutely.
So if you need like a Ring Pop ad or a Gene ad, contact the Heavy Eyes, please.
Damn straight.
Yeah, Levi's. If you're listening, dude, we want to sell you all our music. So,
dude, please, Levi's. I wear Levi's every day. I swear to God, I love you so much. Just love me, Levi's.
All right. So once I get this episode out, I'm gonna have to send this over to Levi's and see what.
Please see it sent to Levi's. I'm dying.
We're brand loyal.
And you know what? If they don't, fuck it. If they don't say yes, send it over to Faded Glory or whatever the jeans are at Walmart. Yeah. We're good. We don't give a fuck.
You could be right next to this Sofia Vergara line. That would be awesome.
Hell yeah.
That's not a bad place to be. Gentlemen,
hell no.
Thank you much. Love you all. And we'll talk sometime soon, all right?
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much, man. Thanks for having us.
All right, guys.
See ya.
Thanks goes out to the Heavy Eyes. Thank you so much for your time, guys. Really appreciate it. And also, thank you so much to Ian from the band Stonewitch for getting this interview all figured out. Thanks, brother. I really appreciate it. Also, got a few top fives I'm going to be releasing, and I'm going to be doing brand new interviews really, really soon, and we're going to have a whole bunch of other stuff. Going to mix it up a little bit, some musicians and some other people in the field. So stay tuned. Take care of yourselves, and don't forget to stay heavy.